Suppose you want to start a business, you should first decide a good price to sell your product. One thing to keep in mind is that you shouldn't set a high price for your product because then you might not find anyone to buy the product. On the other hand, you cannot sell it for a lower price either because then you might yield a loss. So, you must decide on an optimum price such that you might get customers to buy your product and also you will get enough profit for it. Now, the question is, how to set the optimum price for your product. This is where the concept of completing the square method in quadratics comes into picture. In fact, founder of Apple company Steve Jobs used this technique to maximize his profit for all his products. Before jumping into the topic, let us first recall few concepts of quadratics. An equation of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0 is called a quadratic equation. Here, x is a variable, which means that the value of x can vary. A, b and c are called constants, which means that their values are fixed. One thing to note that here, the value of a cannot be 0 because then that will make this equation a linear equation. That is, the degree of that equation will be 1. But for a quadratic equation, the highest power of variable x must be 2. A linear equation, quadratic equation, and cubic equation are in general called as polynomials because they are just based on one variable. Just as how a linear equation has one solution, a quadratic equation will have at most 2 solutions. That is, the equation can have either 2 solutions or one solution and no solution at all. In graphical method, the solutions of a problem will be the points where the curve meets the x-axis. In a while, we shall see how to draw this curve. Now, there are 4 methods to solve a quadratic equation. Number 1 is factorization method. In this method, the product of coefficient of x and constant is found and its factor pairs are listed. We find a pair of factors such that the sum of these factors equals the coefficient of x and the coefficient of x is replaced with those 2 factors. Then they are grouped together, common terms are pulled out, and then they are factorized together. In this way, we can find solutions to x. Number 2 is formula method. Not all problems can be solved using factorization method. That's when formula method comes into use. Values of a, b, and c are substituted into the formula, and by following the basic algebraic rules, we can find solutions for x. Number 3 is graphical method. The quadratic equation is considered to be equal to a variable y. Then for substituting different values of x, we find values for y. The values of x and y are then plotted into a graph and the points where the curve meets x-axis are approximated and then solutions of x are found. The minimum point on the curve is called the vertex. By taking x equal to 3 as a mirror line, we see that the curve is symmetric along that line. And so the line x equal to 3 will be called line of symmetry of the curve. Constant c in the quadratic equation ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0 will be y-intercept. So if someone gives you a quadratic equation and asks you to sketch a graph, then you should be able to sketch the graph with just the x-intercept or y-intercept and the vertex. In sketching, not all points need to be precise. It's enough if just 2 or even 3 points are precise. If the coefficient of x squared is less than 0, that is a negative number, then the curve will look like this and its vertex will be the highest point on the curve. In fact, graphical calculators can be very useful to draw a graph. You just have to enter the quadratic equation and you will have the graph in no time. The link to this calculator I've mentioned in the description box. It is free, so do check it out. Number 4 is completing the square method. This method is used mostly to plot a graph than to solve the equation. Most importantly, we'll be able to find the vertex without even plotting the curve. You might wonder what's the purpose of finding the vertex. Now let me explain its purpose. In real life, business people will have at least 2 values for prices and the revenue they get in return. Using these values, a quadratic equation is modeled. By modeling, I mean converting a real-life problem into a mathematical problem. When this quadratic model is plotted into a graph, the vertex of that graph will show us the price for which we can gain maximum profit. Anyway, we'll now see how to find solution using completing the square method. Now the equation ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0 is expressed in the form a into x plus p the whole square plus q. Here, p and q are constants. Minus p comma q is a coordinate point and this will be the vertex of the equation ax squared plus bx plus c. First, we should make the coefficient of x squared to be 1. Then, x squared minus 6x will be made into a complete square. That is, we are going to write it in the form x minus a the whole squared. What do you get when you expand x minus a the whole squared? We get x squared minus 2ax plus a square, right? Now since the coefficient of x, 2 is already in the formula, the remaining values will be taken as a. We get 2a is equal to 6. And so value of a is 6 divided by 2, which is equal to 3. Now we see that we can simply find the value of a by just dividing the coefficient of x by 2. As we are supposed to write it in the form x minus 3 the whole square, we are going to add and subtract 3 square by multiplying minus 9 by 2 and pulling it out of the braces, and by adding it to 1, we get minus 17, which is the vertex form. We get vertex to be the minimum point, that is 3 comma minus 17. By equating the quadratic equation to y, we get y-intercept as 1. Also, as we have the vertex of the equation, we can easily plot the graph. So, in this video, we just learned how to write the quadratic equation into its vertex form. That is a into x plus p the whole square plus q squared equal to 0 using completing the square method.